is recording.
Yep. All right. Welcome to the first episode in our new webinar series, Conversations, a focus on mental health challenges and the relationships that matter. Tonight, we are sitting down with Liz and Emmy Miller, who are a mother and daughter that are going to share with us their perspectives of the path to sobriety. They shared their story with us in one of our most popular blog posts, Love Letters for a Mom, A Path to Sobriety and Happiness. And tonight, they are going to go more in depth about how their relationship has evolved along the way. If anything that is said in this candid conversation between mother and daughter brings up any questions for you, please reach out to our free and confidential family support partners. The contact information will be put in the chat during our discussion tonight. To start off, why don't you both introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi, I'm Emmy.
And I'm Liz, Emmy's mom.
And then our first question of the evening is, what are some of the lessons that you have learned along the way? Emmy, we'll start with you.
One of the biggest lessons I've learned is to try and take everything day by day, especially being an addict. Sometimes it's hour by hour, minute by minute. You never know when you're going to get those urges or like your old mindset pops in. And sometimes it can be really hard to deal with that. And being an addict, like my mind is a lot different than like a normal person's mind would be. So like sometimes when I say things, I have to make sure I'm being spiritual in a way, or the things I do, I have to be sure that I'm doing them for the right reasons, or whatever the case is in certain situations. But my biggest thing I've learned is just taking one day at a time with everything, really.
And Liz?
Well, over the years, I've learned to stop being sarcastic, reactive, learn to set boundaries, and have learned to ask for help. The big one that I learned was that I really have no control over anything other than myself, and that can be very difficult. A lot of time and worry can be spent trying to control things that are out of our control. And that was a big lesson for me to learn. And it's helped me tremendously.
Perfect. And then our second question is, did you deal with feelings of isolation throughout the process? And what helped you through this? Again, we'll start with Emmy.
So when I first got clean, even while using, I would isolate a lot. I wouldn't want to be around anybody. A lot of the time was because I knew my mom was going to kill my high, or whatever the case was. But even when you get into recovery, it's a very awkward decision to make. It's a very awkward thing to deal with mentally, emotionally, physically. So when I first got clean, I went to a recovery house. Well, the first place I went was a PHP after rehab, and it's more of a intense like step down from rehab instead of just going to like a halfway house. And I think it was pretty good there. It was only like 3 of us in the house, but I was super lazy. Like I wouldn't do the things people told me. And I also have, what is that? We were just talking about that today.
Oppositional defiance disorder.
So even with like being incarcerated and whatever the case may be, like I think one of the reasons I went to jail so many times was because of that, not just being an addict myself. But when I first got clean, I was pretty decent for the first 3 months. And then I moved into a recovery house closer to home with a lot more girls. I think when I moved in, there was probably 20 of us at the time. And that's like really nerve-wracking because I usually don't have the greatest relationships with females because my own insecurities and being, I'm trying to think of the word, intimidated by, like walking into a recovery house having 30 days clean, and you meet these girls with 9 months, 1 year, like you're intimidated by it. Like you're like, well, I'm like at the bottom of the totem pole. So I isolated a lot when I first got clean. There were times where I wouldn't come out of my room other than to go to like IOP and eat. I didn't have any relationships with the girls, and if I did, it was like one of them. And in the program, we say get a sponsor, get a home group, and start working your steps. And getting a sponsor is a lot like asking somebody on a date. Like, it's like that type of feeling like, oh my God, what if they say no? What if they say yes? What do I do then? What if they don't like me? Like, whatever the case may be. And a sponsor is somebody you share like your deepest, darkest secrets with, and you have to be completely honest with them. And that's intimidating in itself. So like that was like a really weird time for me. And the only way I got out of isolation was through somebody in the program. Now looking back at it, it probably wasn't like the healthiest relationship. But and we weren't like dating or anything. It was just like a guy, and he was like, oh, I'll take you to meetings, whatever the case may be. But his thought of the relationship we had was different from mine, per se. And we would go to meetings all the time. I joined the home group that he was running, and there was a couple home group members there. And I'm going to explain a home group in just a minute so you know what I'm talking about through this seminar. And that's what really got me out. Like, when you put yourself in the middle of all the shit, you tend to gain more. A big part of staying clean is the before, the after, and the during the meeting, because you make connections with people. And I always say, like, if I'm in the middle of the boat, it's harder for it to tip. When I have people around me that care about my well-being and want to make sure I get another day clean, it's a lot harder to go back out and use, because then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking of my mom. I'm thinking of all these other people that care about me and need me. And eventually, the guy that brought me into this home group, he relapsed. So at like 8 months clean, I was running this entire home group by myself. And that is another big reason today also, because I'm still in that group, why I stay clean, because it gives me purpose. Yeah, but in the beginning, it's really hard with isolation because you don't even know who you are yet. As a person who's not on drugs, like, you have to feel all these feelings again. And it's really different.
You know, just you said you don't know who you are yet.
Yeah.
At our family support group, a mom and dad recently saw their son for the first time after close to a year. He had moved to another state for rehab, and he was in recovery, and they were going to visit him. And I loved what the dad said. He said, we have a new person in our life. And I was like, what do you mean you have a new person in your life? And they're meeting a new person.
Son,
and because you are a different person, you know, like you said, and people, you know, still trying to figure out who you are.
Yeah, even to this day, like, being clean is a lot different than numbing everything with drugs, obviously. And I remember I couldn't cry for a while, and if I was crying, it was being in a manipulative way. Like, my mom had called me, or no, I called her, and I was like, hey, I'm ready to come home, and she was like, yeah, no. I think I cried on the phone with you. I'm like, please, I want to come home. And like, that wasn't even me being upset. That was me trying to get home. But the first time I cried was, this is the stupidest thing. It was a SPCA commercial. And it was like what's that song? The Arms of the Angel, that song, the Sarah McLachlan song for the commercial.
Oh yeah,
and I'm hysterically crying, and like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, whoa, this is the first time I've really like felt emotion. Because numbing them with drugs for so long, you like feel you're numb, like you don't feel about anything. Like, I would get over anybody to get my next fix, whatever it was. But yeah, so the isolation can be super tough.
Liz, did you feel isolation at all, and what helped you through that?
We learned as parents that, well, one, it can be so isolating to have an addict for a child. And we learned that we were not alone by attending a weekly parent support group. They asked all the right questions, they listened, and they gave, not that they gave advice, they would talk about their own experiences as to what worked for them and things like that, and what didn't work. You can feel isolated because some families say, not in my house, I'm not going to have that kind of behavior. Nobody really understands it until they're living it in their own house with their own child. And, you know, you need to reach out to other parents that understand, because it's such a comforting environment to meet somebody who has walked in your shoes.
And I'll just say this, I think we talked about this. It's really weird that you say that, because that's like how I feel when I walk into an NA meeting, because I can look at anybody in the room and we've gone through the same thing or felt the same thing at one point or another. So it's really interesting that you have a group that does the same thing that I do.
What I say about my group is when I walked in, some of them were even laughing. And I looked around and I'm like, how can anybody be laughing? Like, no way. We are in such crisis here. But then I saw what they had and I wanted it. Mm-hmm. And I went after it, my husband and I, and we kept going and sharing and listening and learning. And as Emmy said, one day at a time, sometimes 1 hour at a time. But it was great to know that there were people I could reach out to talk to.
That's like the way you just explained that. That's like when you find a sponsor. That's somebody that's going to help you go through the steps. And normally they tell you to find somebody that you see and you're like, wow, they're like, I want to be them. Like for me as a woman, my sponsor, Brie Lynn, I met her and she just had so much confidence and so much, like I respected her recovery. And that at that moment I was like, I want to have what you have. If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, it definitely does.
And what do you think was different with Emmy's last time in the treatment facility, and what made it stick? So we'll start with you, Emmy.
Okay, my last time in treatment was June 2018, right? 2018. Mm-hmm. So,
actually July, you went in
July. Well, I went to, okay, it makes sense. So, I'm going to explain that. I was on probation for a
bad choice by doing drugs.
It was a stupid choice while I was doing drugs. And I got caught. I did the dumbest thing you could possibly do. I was super messed up. I took a girl's wallet, used her credit card like I wasn't going to get fucking caught in fucking 2018. They got cameras everywhere now. Like, just absolutely ridiculous. So I was supposed to be on probation for 6 months. I ended up being on probation for almost 2 years due to my drug use. They told me that I couldn't use drugs while I was on probation. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not going to stop using drugs because you tell me to. And there goes the oppositional defiance. After a couple times of coming in with a hot urine, they put me in jail for the first time. And that was not, like, fun at all.
Well, we were really lucky because you were under 18.
I was under 18, so it wasn't, like, prison. But
it was, juvenile
detention. That sucked. But it still wasn't enough to get me to stop using. So after a couple more times of going to jail, I went to my last probation appointment. I was supposed to get off probation that month. My PO told me that day that the paperwork was in the mail. And my dad knew that I was doing drugs. And I remember him telling me this, and I was so fucking mad at him. I was a year clean at this point, a year or so. And when he told me this story, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, but being clean, I was able to be like, okay, well, you're mad, cool, but like your dad did this to save your life. And he did without, Dad, if you're watching, thank you. Thanks for that, by the way.
Well, tell them what he did.
So he told my PO he knew I was using, and he needed that my PO needed to drug test me, and she did, and I went to jail that day. And I didn't know that until later on. But it's really hard sitting in the bottom of the courthouse in a cold room by yourself, a metal toilet, freezing. I swear to God, down in the basement, they dropped the temperature just to make you feel like shit. It was summertime. I had like these cutoff shorts and like this t-shirt or tank top or something, and I was freezing my ass off.
Sitting in a cell by yourself.
Sitting in a cell by myself, and so I had a probation meeting early in the morning, and that they don't leave the jail or the holding cells until the end of the day because the courthouse has a lot of other cases. So I was in this cell for like 8 hours, and then I was finally able to go to the juvenile detention center. But this time was different because I knew it was my last option, because my judge was done with me. He was like, the next time, he was like, I'm going to let you go to treatment, but if this shit happens again, you're not going to go to juvie. You're going to go somewhere in, I think he said Arizona.
I don't know.
He was talking about sending me, and I know of the place in Arizona. It's not like juvie. It's like a high-end, what is that? Very secure jail, and it's a long-term facility. And that kind of gave me a kick in the ass, like, oh, maybe I should knock it the fuck off, right? And so I went to treatment, and my mindset still, I sat down, and I went to a beautiful treatment facility. Thank you, Blue Cross. But seriously,
Well, you can say where you went. Right?
I went to Karen, and I sat down, and they were like, what do you want to eat? And I was like, you got chocolate cake? They came out with like this giant piece of chocolate cake, and I'm sitting there and I'm laughing at my judge. I'm like, if this motherfucker could see me now. And like going into treatment, I still had that mindset like, oh, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get off probation, and I'm going to go back to Kensington and get my drugs. Right. And we had like this chapel service every Sunday. And
let me say,
yeah.
At Karen, a lot of people might know the chapel service on Sundays. It's non-denominational, but it's spiritual, and it's just so uplifting. And after the service, people come back for their coins for a month, for a year, and it's just
their anniversaries of being clean.
Right. So Emmy was new to Karen, and Sunday comes along, and she starts going, you have to go to the gatherings.
Yeah, so like they have like family days where your parents can come and watch chapel with you. And there was a girl there, and she was there with her mom getting her 1 year coin, I think. And the whole time, don't hit me because of my tattoo, but my mom was like, this, that's you, oh, that too, like over and over again. And like they say there's this flip, this switch in recovery, a shift in your behavior, and you want it. Like you want to be clean, and that's the only way you're going to get clean. Like I could have gone to treatment over and over again. If I didn't want it, I wasn't going to stay clean.
This was Emmy's second treatment center.
Yeah. But that's what was different for me.
And Liz, what do you think was different for him?
I say that the last time in treatment was different because, as Emmy said, the courts were involved. We weren't able to get Emmy to treatment ourselves. And like I said, she was turning 18. Yeah. Once you're 18, it's jail. It's not juvenile detention. And you move up in the courts, and it just gets tougher and tougher. What was I going to say? Oh, okay. So when Emmy was younger, I'll just throw this in there. guess Emmy was 15 when she went to her first treatment facility, and we had her go in, what state?
Connecticut.
Yeah, we took her all the way to Connecticut because in Pennsylvania at 15 you can sign yourself out of a rehab facility, and in Connecticut you have to be 18.
I was stuck
Yeah.
for 3 months.
We felt if we took her to a Pennsylvania rehab, we feel you would have just signed yourself out and ran.
Yeah.
That was her mindset. The family courts were they were involved at that point, but it was our choice to send her there, and that was 3 months. And she needed to be there, but I don't think she was ready for what they really had to offer. And I think by the time she got to Karen, you might have been more ready.
Yeah.
You were maybe a little tired of, I wrote, and somebody in my parents group says this, like running and drugging.
We call it ripping and running.
Ripping and running. Okay. So,
it's good enough.
It had just been years of all this stuff. And also Emmy had an incredible counselor at Karen, a motivating person who made her work. But I have to say, I shouldn't say made her work.
She made me work, yeah.
Yeah, but you had to want to do it.
That's the biggest thing.
I mean.
When people get clean, you gotta want to get clean. Like, I was actually talking with my boyfriend last night. He's in recovery also, and he had gotten high during our relationship and went to rehab and came back out and relapsed. And I was like, even as an addict myself, like sometimes I'll forget that he's the same as me. Like he thinks the same way I do. And I was like, why do you think you relapsed that time? And he was like, because I was forced into it. I wasn't ready. You got to run and run until you're done and you hit your knees and you're at your rock bottom. That's what it really comes down to mostly, because an addict isn't going to get clean unless they want to. We're very stubborn, very stubborn.
And also I'll just add in there, after the 30 days at Karen, we couldn't have Emmy come home.
No.
And we were able to have her stay at an extended care facility in the Lancaster area. And if she had come home too soon, she wouldn't still be clean today.
Yep.
And that's the setting boundaries. That's the being ready. You being ready. You didn't really want to go to the extended facility, but I think you knew if you came home that would be it.
That was it.
Yeah.
And how did your relationship change throughout this entire process? Again, starting with Emmy.
We're still learning how to disagree right now. But when I was in active addiction, I think there was times where we couldn't even be in the same room, really, without wanting to rip each other's heads off. And like that goes to play with doing drugs. I didn't care about anybody else's emotions other than mine. Or at times I didn't even care about mine. I'll just say this, and yeah, I'm just going to say it's not one of my best moments. I still work through the shame and guilt with it all. But there was a time where I came home and I had drugs in my purse, and my mom was going to take my purse to look in it, and immediately fight or flight mode kicks in, and I just punched her in the face. I was like, she wasn't, in my mind in that moment, she wasn't my mom. She was somebody trying to take my drugs, and I was like, that's not fucking happening. But today, you probably hate me for this, but I literally call her, like, if I stub my toe.
I don't hate you for this.
My boyfriend's like, why do you fucking call them so much? Like, my mom is my best friend today, but we've had to put in a lot of work to get there. I've had to do a lot of work on myself. And it's hard, but we got there. And I wouldn't want it any other way. And I couldn't see it any other way. how it is.
We got a new person in our lives.
Yeah, we got a new person.
Hey, Drew, we got a new person in our lives, right?
Nice to meet you.
No, we're blessed with Emmy's success. She was in treatment twice. She went through a lot with the extended care, and then 9 months longer at sober living. And sober living houses, you want to find a good one.
Oh yeah,
it's really important. Reach out for information about that. And Emmy mentioned about women and things like that. That house was all women, and they had to go to meetings. You had to go to meetings,
4 meetings a week.
4 meetings a week, and a couple of those meetings had to be women only. And I just one.
Yeah.
I think it really helped Emmy grow tremendously. She was just so immersed in the culture, and the people that she worked with were incredible. That was Sobriety Solutions. So part of our relationship, I wrote that even when it was contentious, I always had a deep, strong love for Emmy, and knew in my heart we would do whatever we had to do in order to get through this. I just always felt we were going to get through on the other side.
Sorry.
And we laugh, and we might seem a little bit light about some things, and that's because I said to Emmy, like, we don't want to be too light or have anybody think that we take this as any kind of joke. And Emmy brought up, we're hope for people.
And listen, if we're not laughing, we're crying.
Right. We've had enough tears, and we've worked hard. As Emmy went through her sobriety, my husband and I went through our recovery with our family group, and I'm involved in a step group for codependency with the support of a great group of women. And I kept growing and got stronger, and so did my husband. And that just helped us tremendously in dealing with Emmy. And so as she grew, we grew.
Before our last question of the evening, remember to check the chat box for all of the links mentioned in the intro, as well as a link to our PA mental health consent law document. The law has been updated, and the link it's under the publication tabs of our website as well. So our last question of the evening is, what would your advice be for someone, Emmy for the child, and Betty Ann and Liz for the parent, who is in the same shoes that you were in?
My advice would be, this is like a touchy question for me.
Why is that?
Because I've had so many people pass away, and it's just,
I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, it's I'm gonna say this and explain why. So I've been clean for 2 years, and when you get into rehab, they tell you when you get clean, make sure you buy a nice suit or a nice dress, because you'll be going to a lot of funerals. And when I heard that, I was like, yeah, okay, like, sure. I'm sure I'll be at a few. And I've been clean for 2 years now, and I have lost more friends.
I think 9 friends.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even go through all of them.
That's a lot. Emmy's 20 years old.
Yeah.
You've lost 9 friends, and it's been in 2 years.
Yeah. And there's many more to come, because this disease is life-threatening, and it's life or death with these things. And I think some people think that, oh, they're fucking junkies, like, you're doing this.
Why don't they just stop?
Why don't they just stop? You deserve this. You put a needle in your arm, so you deserve the consequences. And that's not the case, because we don't really have a choice in the matter. So I say this, do it for your family, do it for your kids, do it for your husbands, do it for your wives. Do it so you're not on a Facebook page or an obituary or in the ground, really.
Do it for yourself.
Do it for yourself, because I never thought that life could be this good without drugs, and I have that today. Listen, life sucks either way. And for an addict, like, it's even more shitty because we have so much more shit to have to deal with. And like, but like, don't leave before the miracle happens. That's what I always say. When you're getting clean, there's so much grief, there's so much guilt that you have from what you've done during active addiction, but you have to know that you're not alone. And you have to know that, like, that person that did those things isn't you. I always said that I was Stacy. It was Stacy. I was a fucking bitch. And but it takes a lot of hard work on yourself. Like, it's not just like cutting out the drugs and then you're going to be like this fine human being. Like, that's not the case. There's self-acceptance, self-worth. You're powerless over a lot of shit. You have to surrender to the fact that you're even an addict. And it's
Powerless. That's our word.
yeah. I told her she should get power and then less on her eyelids.
It's not that we give up. We don't give up our
just like,
power, but we don't have any control.
I don't have control over what Mom's about to say in the next 5 minutes, whether it's going to be good or if it pisses me off, you know? And I don't have power over anybody. So who am I to think that I do? But just keep coming. Go to rehab. Save yourself, because it fucking sucks losing people. Yeah. It is the hardest fucking thing. And the way my mind works, my ex-boyfriend passed away a month ago, and his birthday was on Wednesday. No, it was Wednesday.
Okay.
I want to say Wednesday. And like, you have to, like, people have to keep living after you die. And like, my mind tells me, oh, you know what? Maybe I should just go numb all these feelings and do the same drug that he did. And then whether I die or not, it doesn't fucking matter, because that's the way the pain feels. But like, with the steps and the things I've learned today, I know, like, that's my addict mind. That's Stacy in my head talking to me. And I shouldn't fucking do that by far. But like, that's how crazy this disease is. Like, you're like so in so much pain, you're gonna go do the thing that killed your friend. And like, heroin, whatever it fucking is, has killed a lot of my friends. And it's heartbreaking every time. It's excruciating pain. But like, today I live on for them. Like, I stay clean for them. And you want to be that person in somebody's life, to make them see that there is a way out. There is light on the other side. Like, there is hope.
As you said.
Yeah, there's hope. And yeah, you just got to work at it. That's the biggest thing. And you're not alone.
I just want to touch back to, like, Emmy talked about the shame and things like that. As a parent of an addict, I didn't have any experience in this. And that was all. I never thought about the shame that she would have, or the guilt for her actions when, like, the time, when she hit me, and she really felt shameful about that. And I would take these topics to group and put it out there about addicts feeling shame, and there'd be some great conversations, because it explains things to you from their side. And a lot of times we have to learn about all that. And the parents group is what helped me with that. Even if it was telling me, giving me some direction for books, websites, things like that. It wasn't easy to find a group. Well, if your child does go to rehab, you will often be directed somewhere for a parent group. And we just found the best group ever. And hang in there, seek support, because your coworkers, your family, your friends who don't have addicted children don't understand. Get professional help, even if you have to go out of your insurance network. because it's expensive, good counseling. We all try to use our insurance, stay in network and things like that, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to step out of the security of that to get what you need. It doesn't mean, you need to do that all the time, but sometimes if there's somebody really great out there that can help you, go to that person. We've had people change our lives. So, and we just keep communicating.
Yeah, I said that was deep. FYI, she works in billing.
Well, I think there's a whole big aspect about rehab.
Were you going to say Aston?
No.
No.
Rehab's expensive, and so is the aftercare. And some people go to rehab, like we said, more than one time, 2 times, 5 times. You keep
25 times.
Yeah.
I know people that have been in treatment at least 30 times.
It happens. So as Emmy said, keep coming back and get that sponsor. And parents, you need to get a type of sponsor yourself.
Find a purpose.
Because we used to say in our group, uh-oh, Liz, you're getting on the crazy bus, because I'd be totally whacked out.
You're always on the crazy bus.
Well, this is like for parents, crazy bus, trying to control and fix everything in my child's life. And that's not what I'm here for. That's when we talk about powerless. I can't fix things. And, Emmy's going to take her own path, and we, work with her as much as we could and offer whatever we could, but she'd have to have the commitment to do it. So hang in there and get support.
Thank you both for sharing such a personal and inspiring story. To stay up to date on the next webinar in this series or any of our future webinars, sign up for our newsletter or become a member, both of which you can find on our website. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Good night.